Hey everybody, ronarray here, and spinning to win Cyclone builds is a classic that many people enjoy playing for how smooth and simple and awesome the gameplay feels. In 3.27, Cyclone was buffed, receiving 20% more damage with no downsides, and right now it feels like it's a pretty perfect time to play it. So today I wanted to share my in-depth guide for physical Shockwave CYCLONE plus General Cry build. This starter is pretty strong, smooth and comfortable with very basic gear. It also scales pretty well with the investment too. It has a great clear, decent single target with a Warcry plus Shockwave combo, and it spins. It's very fun to just roll around without a care in the world. Let's go forward and I will be able to explain how the build works and what you will need to build it. Feel free to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy guides like that as well, and let's go! So first, let's talk about how that build works. We are going to use multiple layers of offense to reach decent damage. First off, it's the damage from Cyclone itself. When you're spinning around and hitting enemies, you're going to deal damage. Second step is a Shockwave. Shockwave is a unique support, and when you're hitting enemies, it's going to trigger Shockwave on melee hit, and the Shockwave is going to deal damage as well. And the next step is General Cry, connected to Thunder or at the higher levels to Ground Slam of Earth Shaken. That way, General's Cry, when it's triggered, going to summon Mirage Warriors, which are going to use the skill Thunder or Ground Slam of Earth Shaken later on. General Cry skill is going to be connected to Auto Exertion, so it's going to be reused automatically every time when General Cry's cooldown is over, which is going to give us a pretty decent uptime for the rest. And since we don't really need to use Shockwave manually as well, we can just roll around with Cyclone, trigger Shockwaves and General's Cries consistently. The only time when we will need to use some other skill is the bossing. On the boss, we're going to use a Desecrate to spawn corpses, so General Cry can literally resurrect the Mirage Warriors out of those corpses. So at the boss we will need to use a Desecrate and use a Cyclone only after. And when you're mapping, you can literally just roll around with Cyclone without a single worry in the world. Now let's talk about leveling. So at the start, it's much easier to just play with Splitting Steel. So you're going to use Splitting Steel together with Chance to Poison and Chance to Bleed. You can get like Vitality and Clarity for quality of life and slowly progress further. At level 13, it's a very good idea to just swap to Thunder. Thunder can give us both Chance to Bleed and like added fire damage for additional damage in general, so running Thunder is very recommended up until at least level 30. And at level 30, you will be able to just finally swap to Cyclone. So here, it's pretty important to mention at least a few things that you will need to keep in mind. First off, you will need to use Cyclone together with Shockwave. Shockwave will be available from level 18, so if you can get it, it's going to be pretty nice. So Cyclone and Shockwave is your setup for level 32. And if you will have additional sockets, I recommend to start using General's Cry as fast as you can. So for that, you need to take General's Cry, Warcry together with Auto Exertion and Thunder. It's going to make your damage significantly higher, which is a very comfortable setup. For bosses, keep in mind that you will need to spawn Desecrate, so right from level 32 you will need to have a Desecrate always up in your setup. And as auras, I recommend to just run Herald of Ash at the start, because it can give you 15% of your physical damage as extra fire, which is very nice and stacking pretty nicely with the tree. So in the tree, we're going to use Precise Technique for leveling. Precise Technique is giving 40% more attack damage if accuracy rating is higher than maximum life. It's very important as well, so you'll need to make sure that your accuracy is always higher than your maximum life. You can check it in PoE right here, that's Manhunt accuracy, and that's your total life. Check it in the game as well if you're not sure, and to get that accuracy, I heavily recommend to get at least accuracy mastery for 500 accuracy. And since you're running Herald of Ash, it's really recommended to run Fire Mastery as well. 100% increased damage with hits against ignited enemies can give a significant damage boost, and you're going to ignite enemies pretty often just from Herald of Ash effect by itself, because you have 15% of your physical as extra fire. Make sure not to use brutality while you're using it, because if you will have brutality, that combination is going to stop working. So your support number 4 after that is Pulverize. Pulverize is working great for both Cyclone and for your General's Cry Thunder, so just add Pulverize in both combinations. Around level 75, so when you're literally reaching the maps, I recommend to start investing more into criticals, and you can also add Impale to your Cyclone as an additional link. Right here, the rest of the setup stays the same, but adding an Impale is going to help you out with damage. And when you're looking at the tree at level 75, it's very important to pass to the left and take all staff attack bonuses. At that point, you need to use just staff as your weapon. Perfectly, you need to have plus 25% chance to block attack damage while wielding a staff, but any other kind of staff should work for your setup. You will need to get intelligence somewhere in your build perfectly on one of your jewelry items, and also Wisdom of the Glade is very recommended to reach that level. So around level 75 you need to start preparing for changing into the crit, but you can already use the stuff. So while you have precise technique, you can't deal critical strikes at all. And at level 75, when you just reach the maps, I still recommend to keep precise technique, but you'll need to make sure that your accuracy is higher than your life. And when you're progressing further up to level 91 Watchstones, your tree is going to be changed significantly. They're going to drop the whole part to the right, so like no precise technique anymore, and you can just go to the left instead. Take more block nodes here and here and reach critical chance. From that point you can just run a basic setup of your supports and focus on getting critical on your items, so you can get any particular stuff with higher damage. Now let's talk about survivability and how we can beat tankier in the late game. So a very important part for Cyclone currently to survive properly is reaching block chance cap. Block chance currently around level 91 should be 65 for attacks and 59 for spell block. To reach that, you will need to allocate versatile combatant, but by itself it's still not enough. We're going to take all possible nodes for blocking here, from Smash and Strike, Counterweight and Whirling Barrier, and go for Steel Wood stance as well. We should improve overall situation with blocking. However, to reach the cap, we will need to use Tattoo of Valaka Shieldbearer and allocate as many tattoos as we need to pretty much be capped on spell block chance as well. So right from level 90, I recommend try to buy as many tattoos as your budget will allow you and change a lot of strength nodes right here just to get the block capped. Another thing that should help you with that is a Rooming Concussion Granite Flask. That flask can give you the rest of the block, so make sure that you have it and you have it activated. In the Uber version, I also heavily recommend to take Forbidden Flame and Forbidden Flash to reach more than skill from Gladiator. It can give you plus 22% of additional block chance against attacks and against spell block as well, reaching 87% block chance. I think it's definitely worth the investment for Uber version. However, at the starter it's not that important, and just make sure that you have enough tattoos to get your block as high as possible, and don't forget to use your Roomie's Concussion. Another important part of the build survivability is Leech and Over Leech. Currently, since we're running Ascendancy like that, Brutal Fervor is going to give us life leech effects not removed when unreserved life is filled. And that's going to provide a big chunk of survivability itself. For that, we are taking a lot of leech masteries across all three. So going for Hematophagy right here to get even more leech together with instantly, just in case, and reaching about 2,500 life leech in the Uber version, and around level 91 you should have more than 1,000 life leech on hit rate, which is very good for your survivability. And another part is pretty much endurance charges. To have those endurance charges, at least while you're clearing the maps, I heavily recommend to just take Disciple of Unyielding. It's going to give you endurance charges on kill and going to give additional damage per endurance charge. We're taking a lot of endurance charges across the whole tree, so Vigor here, Stamina, and Endurance here as well. If you still feel like you're not generating endurance charges fast enough, you can take Inexorable, which is going to give you endurance charge when you are hit, and that's happening pretty often, so it shouldn't be that big of an issue. And the last part of the defense layer is pretty much Fortify. So Fortify initially is very easy to get from the Mastery, with just taking melee hits Fortify from the Mastery together with the stat fast right here. However, at higher levels and approximately around Uber version, there is a better way to get Fortify, which is using a cluster jewel. At the cluster jewel, there is a node called Overlord. 30% increased damage with maces, scepters and staves, and melee hits with maces, scepters and staves, Fortify for 6 seconds. That's a pretty nice bonus, and I just heavily recommend to go for Overlord and Faith Advantage cluster, just because it's very comfortable. Same goes for your Leech. So initially, Mana Leech is coming from Spirit of War at level 91. At 75, you're getting it from Life and Mana Leech node right here. And at the Uber version, Leech is coming just from the cluster, so you have like a Feed the Fury and Fuel the Fight nodes right here to provide both types of the Leech. Another important part for Cyclone builds is pretty much stun. So you don't really need for your Cyclone to be stopped at any time. During the leveling, I recommend to take Unwavering Stance, because it can give you cannot be stunned and cannot evade enemy attacks. That way, your Cyclone will not be stopped and it will be much more comfortable to play that. However, in the endgame, like an Uber version, you don't really need to get Unwavering Stance anymore, because you can get a bonus on your body armor. Ignore stuns while using socketed attack skills. Since you're going to place your Cyclone into your body armor, you will not get stunned and it's going to be much more comfortable in that case. So that's been my guide for Cyclone Shockwave General Scry Slayer. You can check a written guide both in the description and in the pinned comment for more information, and also check the variations of leveling that I already created to